Red Bull are preparing to have an aggressive aero on their RB22 for the first pre-season tests in 2026. Now, while we all are aware of the very much glorified livery reveal this upcoming Thursday, as is going to be the case with the majority of teams, Red Bull internally have full focus on that first private test and of course the subsequent two in Bahrain in the end of this month, heading into February. Now, what is it exactly Red Bull are doing, and what do people mean when they report aggressive aero concepts? Well, look at it like this. What we know is testing is all about gathering data, aero data, the engine data, and making sure everything is working as you want it to, and your wind tunnel numbers are very much as identical as to the real world as you can possibly imagine. So Red Bull's strategy and philosophy for this pre-season in 2026 is somewhat different and to the contrary of other teams. While teams such as Ferrari are going a completely different route, bringing a glorified mule car to the private test in Barcelona just to gather engine mileage and data for their new 26 engine, and then bringing subsequent aero packages for each of the tests all the way up until the first race in Australia, Red Bull have gone the complete opposite end of the scale. They are bringing a finalized version for Spain, if the news is to be believed. This comes from Racing News 365. Now, essentially what this means is the package you see, or rather not see, but Red Bull bring to the private test in Barcelona is going to be very much the definitive package that they will race with in the first race in Australia in Melbourne. And there is good reasons behind why they want to do that, as I have just outlined. It will give them a much better understanding of the aero philosophy. All of the data they gather is actually going to be of use for them, because can you imagine you go with a mule car and you bring subsequent aero packages to each testing session you have all the way up until Australia. All of the data you've gathered is going to be of little use to you, because of course this isn't the finalized package. So the load points, the downforce points, the aero configuration, how you set up the suspension, as that is greatly impacted by the amount of load, drag and downforce points that a package brings to your car. And then of course there is the balance of the car that the drivers are looking to get out of. These are all of the key points and variables that you cannot get very much a definitive answer if you're bringing stagnation in terms of your aero philosophy to the practice and testing sessions. It's not a feasible look. At least that is how Red Bull are viewing this. So with that in mind, Red Bull will be rocking up in Barcelona for the private test with a complete and full aero package ready to be raced in Australia. And it's an approach they want to take, as it's going to be the key aspect for their aggressive approach to upgrades throughout the first quarter or fifth of the season. This baseline package is going to provide all of the key data and analysis they need for all of the subsequent rounds in terms of upgrade packages. It is an approach Red Bull wish to take, and it's one they believe will be key to unlocking the best levels of performance for them overall. Now, before we get into why Red Bull have really chosen to go this route and what it means and says about their engine, this is my brand new channel, F1 Tech Unraveled. I am switching after pre-season to this channel permanently moving forward. Do subscribe to this new channel. There will be a link in the comment section down below to do so. Right, so what does this chosen aero philosophy route in pre-season testing actually mean for the Red Bull Ford engine partnership? And that of course may be a sign of what they expect to get out of their engine, which is going to be the first time they're building their own in-house engine with key knowledge coming from Ford, their partner in 2026 onwards. This maybe gives an indication that the engine isn't going to be up to the par of, say, Mercedes or Ferrari or Honda with Aston Martin. and therefore they want to build a aero platform from which they have the best aero. You could kind of think back and feel it's somewhat similar to 2014, where they had an extremely weak engine, but they were still at the sharp end relatively, given the advantages Mercedes and all the other customer teams had. While Mercedes were dominant, when they didn't win a race in 2014, Red Bull were there to pick up the scraps. I feel that is what Red Bull's approach is looking to get out of it. But things are very much different on the engine front for this era than it was in 2014. The engines were put in stasis in terms of homologation. You couldn't make any upgrades in season to them, which is to the complete opposite in terms of 2026. If you're off the mark by 3% or more after, I believe, 6 rounds throughout the 2026 season, you're going to be able to make changes to your engine to close that gap. So while Red Bull may be playing catch up on the engine side of things, that is not what they want to be doing on the aero aspects. They want to make sure they have as close to the leading aero philosophy as they possibly can. Kind of what they did in the previous ground effect generation as well. They had an extremely competitive engine, granted, we can say that for certain, but they also very quickly understood which aero philosophy route to go down, and the majority of the teams then followed suit. So that is the structure Red Bull are looking to do throughout pre-season testing in 2026 ahead of the first round in Australia, Melbourne. Only time will tell whether this approach pays off or whether they should have gone and chosen what all of the other teams are doing in bringing a stagnated approach to their aero and ironing out all of the other issues that are no doubt going to arise. And it's probably more than likely going to turn out there isn't one correct way or a major incorrect way of going about pre-season testing, like there never is. I mean, I think we look back at all of the ways through which teams have tested in the past. Nothing has been completely wrong or completely right. It's been a mixture of everything and making sure you get everything working together. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with any approach the teams take. Right, everyone, thank you all for watching this video on F1 Tech Unraveled. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, as this is where I'll be putting all my videos in the future after pre-season testing. And I hope you enjoy your week, and I'll catch you later. See you soon.